you very much. You'll have to forgive me, I forgot to outline how this evening will be organised before I introduce our first speaker. First of all, we're going to have 7 minutes from each speaker, and then we're going to have half an hour for questions directed towards them. Our second speaker is from the Liberal Democrats, and it's Vladimir Zhirinovsky.
Thank you. Fellow Russians, this election comes at a momentous time. It comes at a time when the policies of the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia could not be more relevant with regards to our great country. It comes at a time when Russia is not punching its weight in world politics. It comes at a time when the policies of all the other parties for a weak and powerless Russia are in direct contradiction to the policies of our party for a strong and united Russia. The LDPR is the oldest party of the post-communist era. And the difference between the LDPR and the other parties is that our party was formed from below, by people's initiatives. This is again in contrast to the Kremlin's numerous attempts to create a so-called party of power. Democratic choice of Russia, united Russia, our home is Russia. What's the difference? They're all, as a rule, short-lived. And they're all dominated by officials and bureaucrats. Our party, on the other hand, is a party of conviction rather than a party of corruption. While senior people in other parties are former members of the Communist Party, the LDPR has consistently advocated the decommunization of Russia. We don't want a Russia where career and financial well-being are dependent on your membership to the Communist Party. We don't want a Russia where everybody is seen as equal, but yet some are still more equal than others. We've seen ugly Stalin and Brezhnev-style socialism, and there's no weirdo from the Communist Party that's going to make people embrace those ideas. It's an outdated dogma. We don't want a Russia where the bulky apparatus of officials, which has been largely inherited from the communist era, doesn't allow the entrepreneur to lift his head. This is why we would support a lifting of taxes on small businesses for 5 to 10 years, thus creating thousands of jobs and lifting people out of poverty. The rule of the Communist Party has diminished the sense of property ownership and has isolated the country from dialogue with the outside world. This is why Russia needs its own special recipes for the restoration of its economy, science and industry. We have country-specific features. Western legislation and standards are not applicable to Russia. A priest cannot preach a sermon in a synagogue. This is why a special approach is necessary. Whilst we recognise the necessity to get over the communist past, one cannot help but notice the difference in incomes. The difference in incomes today is frightening. The top group can afford purchases which verge on madness. Palaces, land, private jets, football clubs, while millions live below the poverty line. This is why oligarchic businesses need to be reformed, and the major enterprises should be under the control of the state. These include oil and gas, iron and steel, transport and communication, and arms production. There are also huge differences between rural and urban areas. Take the example of Kozelsk, an area in the southeast of Russia. Now, very little is said about these people on the television, but the television doesn't reveal the real picture. In Kozelsk, there isn't even a bathhouse. I would provide 100,000 rubles to build a bathhouse there. It's a place where there are regular power cuts and there's no regular bus service. But yet, in contrast, in Moscow, mortgage lending is available and unemployment is relatively low. These things should be applied on a countrywide scale. Moscow isn't Russia. Moscow is just a very small part of our country. We also have to recognize that in today's world there is a global terror threat, and therefore we support anti-terror legislation. We would create a Ministry of National Security with wide-ranging powers and without political supervision. We also support capital punishment at home. But most importantly, we have a firm belief that Russia is an orthodox country, and an orthodox country it must stay. It is a country at the moment that is suffering from Islamization, a strange and foreign belief that is seeking to impose its ways on us and dismantle this great country. We need to seek out these enemies of the Russian people, such as the UK and its NATO allies. Our party campaigns to stop the slander of Andrei Lugovoy, a great Russian being persecuted by John Bull with support from his uncle Sam. No country has been, or ever will, be more hostile to Russia than the UK. Therefore, I think Lugovoy is an asset to the LDPR. But we must get our priorities straight. Our priorities are agriculture, housing, and transport. We would lower the cost of fuel for the agricultural sector. We would set up agricultural procurement agencies. And we promise to build more housing in the countryside. Our slogan will be back to the village. People in Moscow can find home outside of Moscow. They can find a job. Foreign policy must become more dynamic and active.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.